Good day to everybody. This is Unblocked Live, and this is your Wednesday preview. In less than 2 hours, I'm going to be live with none other than Brett Weinstein, and so I wanted to talk about a couple of things that we're going to be talking about a little bit later, and at least touch on them. Also, I have video from Minneapolis when I was there just in December of the occupied zone. And this is a video that I've never released before that I plan to release in this broadcast and show you what it looks like inside what is called Occupied George Floyd Square. And this is a video that I shot on a hidden camera. The reason is that, as in one Twitter video that I posted, you know what, I'll share this video with y'all. This is a reporter inside the occupied zone. Take a look what happens.
It's very tense near the memorial, and a militant-style group has closed off several blocks with barricades. What's the situation at the memorial?
The situation at the memorial is, from what I understand, is kind of volatile.
So that's an activist. Even activists are honest about exactly what's going on. Let's get me back here. At George Floyd Square. So you heard that, where the reporter was doing his job. He was outside the occupied zone, which is about a 2-city block radius from Cup Foods. That is the corner store in front of which George Floyd was killed. And when you go in, and it's quiet, it's very sort of eerily quiet because there's no traffic that can pass. And there are a lot of memorials. There's a lot of street art, which you'll see in the footage that I shot in December. Thanks for the tip, audio on that. Well, basically what happened was the two guys came up. Thanks for the tip on that. And basically said, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be a bad situation. Get the fuck out of here. We know who you are. You know what you are, kind of thing. And they kicked him out. Now, I've been kicked out of some places. In Washington, D.C., I was suspected of being, I guess, against the cause. And so a group of Black Bloc folks kicked me out of Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, D.C., because I didn't answer the question correctly. They came up to me and said, all right, what do you think of Juneteenth? And I was kind of like, okay, which one was that again? Juneteenth, that's emancipation. That's, and so you're put on the spot. I was approached by about 4 or 5 folks in Black Bloc, young, very young. And I tried to talk my way out of it, and I couldn't. But so I got kicked out. And it wasn't enough for me to be 1 city block away. The woman who kept following me wanted to make sure I was more than a city block away from Black Lives Matter Plaza. That was December in Washington, D.C. So this does happen. There's this authoritarian, I call it social authoritarian strain in the activism, where if you are perceived as not being essentially toting their line and doing any sort of reporting on your own that is apart from the cause, then you are kicked out. And I think we can only attribute that as part of the reason that we've had such bad coverage, because it is possible. It is risky. As you saw, that guy, was being threatened. But it is possible. You just shouldn't show up dressed with a puffy silver jacket. I mean, you might want to wear black. That's my suggestion. To blend in, that is. But obviously, it's a free country. You should be able to report from George Floyd Square. Here's some video that I took of George Floyd Square. This is video that you won't get a chance to really see. This is, I believe, the west side entrance to it. And as I said, there's a 2-block radius. This barrier said Bree Way, no way. That's a reference to Breonna Taylor. This is the centerpiece, which is the Fist of Solidarity. I didn't know that it was retractable. The day that I was there, the fist is open, and it retracts to make a fist. But here I'm walking. I'm walking towards the west and the western barrier, and this is the occupied. Now here I'm inside Cup Foods, and I'm leaving the corner store. I'd gone in, and this is immediately outside. Again, you see the fist, the Solidarity Fist, which is open on this day, and the rest of the block. And I'll be quiet for a little. You get a sense of just how quiet it is. Now, with the influx of press that are in Minneapolis right now during the jury selection for the trial of Derek Chauvin, it should come as no surprise that if press are going down to George Floyd Square, which is, a bit of ways, and doing a report on the occupied zone, which has been occupied. A lot of people don't know this. It's been occupied since June. If people are going to go and try to do, a live shot or just a stand-up, that's what you call it when you're out as a reporter shooting and talking, you will be confronted. Now, this was December. It was a really cold day, and I'm wearing all black, and I'm being about as unobtrusive as I possibly can. So a lot of boarded up, you still see lots of boarded up businesses all across Minneapolis. One of them I remember saying, "Children asleep upstairs, do not burn," was written on the wood, the plywood. That made an impression. I have a picture of that somewhere. And this is more of the different memorial plots of sort. If you have any questions about what you're seeing, it is Occupied George Floyd Square. So there was a shooting this last weekend here. Are there people there just during the day? Well, there's people at night. And the thing is it's a no-go zone. Again, you have a radius of two city blocks to the south, 2 city blocks to the north, the west, and the east that are barricaded off. And they do not, and people are on watch. And you'll see a kind of bizarre, there's a marking saying George Floyd Square. Community info. There was a guy in the back. You see the anarchist symbol there. Minneapolis is also heavily anarchist in its traditions. There's no Antifa group in Minneapolis, or at least one that calls themselves Antifa. A lot of it is tied to labor and labor traditions. The IWW is the anarchist union, the International Workers of the World, I believe, IWW. They have an arm called the Workers' Defense Alliance, and they are a big part of the organizing in Minneapolis. Minneapolis isn't as black bloc as Washington, D.C., or as Portland in the Pacific Northwest, from my observations. Now, the two Twitter accounts there are Minneapolis Against Fascism and the Minneapolis Workers' Defense Alliance, both of which they know me by name, and they've been somewhat antagonistic towards me on Twitter, but I never bite. I just ask more questions and try to engage in good faith, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not, you know, there's a big difference. One person once asked, well, what's the difference between you and Andy No? Well, first of all, I'm from the left, and we're going to talk. We have to talk about Andy No in 2 hours in the conversation with Brett Weinstein, because I don't know if you guys have seen the Mumford and Sons banjo, who complimented the banjo player complimented Andy No's book, and then boom, he's gone. He's out of the band, taking some time to reflect on his opinions, so to speak. Now that's what it looked like. George Floyd Square, middle of a day. I think that was a weekday, a Friday. This was just this last weekend. Now, when you don't have any police, and police are not allowed, things can get hairy, because it's essentially so these are all the same location I was walking by on another day. And somebody is shot and killed over the weekend. It's not the first time. There was also shootings in December, at the end of last year. So I've talked to some people who live in that area, and it's imagine a stretch of a 2-block radius where the police are not welcome to enter, where you have barricades. Now, a very strange thing happened. You know what? I'll share this clip. I wasn't going to, but this is a clip of me kind of loitering by the barricade, and nobody was there. So a guy drives up in a car, and he thinks that I'm manning the barricade. My subtitle to this is "The Revolution is Disorganized." This car right here.
How's it going?
Good.
You good?
Yeah, just checking on barriers.
Oh yeah?
I don't think I've met you yet.
No. I'm Lee.
I'm Cowboy.
Okay, Cowboy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. You down here watching this barrier? Or
No, I'm not on. I'm a.
walking through? Or?
Yeah, I know. You know.
So at that point, I say, "Hey, you know," and I drop the name of an anarchist. And he doesn't seem to know who that anarchist is, even though it's like a legacy anarchist who's been in the scene for a long time. And actually the guy who put out the word for people not to talk to me. So this is kind of a funny, a bizarre scene, in the sense that this guy drives up and he's like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And we're just talking to each other. He said his name's Cowboy, but I say, "Hey, do you know blank?" I drop the name of this anarchist, and he says, "No, I don't know who that is." And I was like, "Really?" And he had asked if I was manning the post, and I was honest. I said I wasn't. I wonder what would have happened if I'd said I was.
I'm an out of towner, so I'm not on duty.
Well, welcome.
Okay.
Welcome. So, enjoy your time.
All right. Thanks so much.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.
I'm not on duty, is what I said. Not on duty. I was honest, you guys. Now I have this moment of introspection here. Did I just lie? Those are the same barricades right here, the purple right there. That's this. I think this is the exact same street corner where, if you look at my Twitter feed at J. Lee Quinn, that clip I played at the very beginning of the guy getting kicked out, the 2 people in black bloc walking up to him and saying, "This is going to be a bad situation. Get the fuck out of here. You know what you are," and this kind of thing to the reporter. This is the exact street corner. That's that same purple
Interesting.
barrier.
Interesting interaction. That was Cowboy, and he didn't. Well, I guess I kind of lied. Did I say I was a friend of his? I'm not a friend of his. Obviously, I'm looking for him. But, well, I guess I stretched the truth a little.
So I to kind of cover my tracks, I said, yeah, hey, do you know so-and-so? This was this anarchist that I was looking for. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm a friend of his. Not true. Probably shouldn't have done it. But when you're in a situation like that, you try to drop names just so that the situation doesn't get, if you look like you know what you're doing there, they don't know that you don't know what you're doing there. As I said, the revolution is disorganized. Some question, you did the right thing. Like, well, you just sort of talk yourself out of things. Let's talk. Are there people there just during the day? I would assume they're there at night. I did not go there at night. I would not recommend it either. So the residents are supportive or not mixed? I would say mixed, but the people who are not supportive do not feel they can speak out, because if you live there and you're against the revolution, so to speak, then you will be targeted. And so there is a fear that if you were to speak out and say, hey, we'd like the police back because people have gotten shot and killed here, and we just want a return to law and order. If you said that, that's pretty much asking to be a target, in my opinion. Now, I would welcome anybody to dispute that. Anybody from Minneapolis, I was only there a couple of days. I'm not going to speak for an entire neighborhood. So a disclaimer I want to put forth is I could be wrong. There could be a lot of people who are in support of a governmentless, policeless neighborhood. I just don't know if it's working at this moment, because certainly crime statistics have not abated because there's no police. And we know that there's been shootings and killings. So I would say that people are mixed, absolutely. But if you have any other questions, close enough to the truth. You're winging it when you're sort of going by the seat of your pants. Hey, I'm looking for this guy. You know him? Oh, you don't? Okay, no, I'm just passing through. No, I'm not. I'm not manning the barricade. Now, if I had said, yeah, I'm new, I'm a first day on the barricade, that would have been interesting. Who sent you? I would have said the same guy that you don't know. But, oh, you don't know? All right, so what should I do? I don't know. Since the first time in California I showed up to one of these things in Black Bloc, it became very clear to me that people did not know what was going on at all. And this woman came up to me. I was in Black Bloc. Actually, I was in a muscle shirt. I kind of was like strutting a little bit. And I had dark shades on and a bump cap, which is like a helmet that has a hard edge to it. And I was sort of, trying to mug a little bit on the street corner. And I won't tell you what city this is, but the woman comes up to me. We're in front of a police station. And she's like, all right, hey, I want you to watch that alley down there. If they're going to bull rush us, just give us a signal, let me know. And she's talking to me and this other guy. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. And it became very apparent, that was like back in the early summer. And it became very apparent to me that you show up at these things and people really don't know who the other people are. It's just if you play the part and you speak the language and sort of, I can't tell you the number of times people are like, is that guy a cop? Because they didn't recognize me. And you just go, I'm not a fucking cop, and that's usually the best way out of it. But so many times people have said that. I'm like, and then I remember this one woman said, well, everybody looks like a cop to me, she kind of backed off a little bit. One time in Seattle, I got full on called out because they saw I was filming, and I had to really try to cover my ass in that one. So just a little of the inside. I'm not going out anymore. Thank God it's been dying down. I think it is all eyes on Minneapolis. I want to just check a couple of things and take a look here at my screen. I just want to practice this. When you look at the screen and some of the stories that we're going to talk about later, Representative Tim Ryan, Democrat of Ohio, yelled at the GOP, heaven forbid we pass something that's going to help the damn workers of the United States of America. I certainly sympathize with the sentiment, and a lot of us want an end to gridlock in Washington, D.C. And then what made the headline is, now stop talking about Dr. Seuss and work with us. And the point I'd like to make is that the Dr. Seuss thing, I don't think should be a conservative concern. I think that all of this rash of, when it comes to Gina Carano, when it comes to the New York Times reporter, Doug McNeil, he had said the N-word in context in explaining whether certain things were racist to a group of kids on a field trip with prep school kids. And he was fired for saying the actual word in a conversation about the word. This is the new Teen Vogue staff editor-in-chief, and she's a reporter from Axios. And this group of, I think it was 20 or so in the newsroom, said they wanted to address the newly named editor-in-chief's history of racism. And they're digging back at tweets from when she's a teenager. So 20 members of the staff, make a statement condemning racism. And then you have activists, you get your blue check mark accounts, which sort of get in on everything. And we have the beginning of a Twitter storm. Now, the Daily Beast is everywhere. I've seen the Daily Beast as a common denominator in every single one of these Twitter storms. So the Daily Beast seems to be making this their bread and butter as far as who's getting canceled next. Who are we going after? Now, there's no call for cancellation here, but then it gets to Olivia Munn. And so now we have a big statement about anti-Asian racism. Now, to clarify, what were her statements back when she was a teenager, freshman in college, or whatever? She said something about her Asian TA and having swollen Asian eyes, and give me a 2 out of 10 on my chem problem, cross out all my work, and don't explain what I did wrong. Thanks a lot. And then you could see there, she says something about the TA identifying her as Asian. You're great. So these are tweets from when she was 18 or 19. She's apologized from them. My understanding is back in 2019, this was brought up. She apologized them already. This is Teen Vogue announcing. Now, when you go to the Twitter comments, oh boy, there's only 743. This is what's bizarre, is that this stuff makes, you have a couple congratulations, but then when you scroll down to more tweets, you start to get a pile on, a few more replies. Eventually you get a pile on of sorts when you scroll down. Let's see, smart move. These are mostly supportive, but eventually you get to some other stuff. Anyways, a thread of 700 comments, become unacceptable. Condé Nast, Anna Wintour. Thank you to the staffers brave enough to speak up and have integrity. So isn't this the chick who hates Asians? So the point is that with the media and the Twitter mob, we are labeling people based on their behavior 10 years ago. Now, all of the headlines sort of talk about her having a racist past. So this is a common thread, and we're going to see that. The big news today is the Mumford & Sons banjo player who praised a book by author Andy Ngo, who has covered Antifa in the Pacific Northwest. Now, I'm telling this very just straight down the line because I won't use qualifiers, in other words, descriptors to say Andy knows this. I personally have had no back and forth with Andy Ngo whatsoever. I know people who know him, and but I myself haven't read his book. I've read just a little sample of it, so I can't speak to any authority as to what he sees and how I interpret it different. I will say this: he's of the right. He is a conservative. One article, I think, accurately described him as a conservative activist or a conservative pundit. Those terms, to me, seem objective. When we lose objectivity is when the story of the Mumford & Sons banjo player praising the book of a conservative pundit isn't enough of a story. So news outlets start introducing qualifiers or descriptors which come from activists. These are descriptive. And again, I haven't read the book. I'm just explaining journalistically where the failure is here. Journalistically, where we have sort of a game of Twitter activism telephone, which overtakes the trend online. And then once the Daily Beast jumps on it, they always seem to be first. Everybody else jumps on the Twitter storm. And so with the Mumford and Sons banjo player, he praises this book. He says, this is brave work. Actually, I'll show you the tweet and I'm not going to editorialize here as much as just show you so that you guys can see for yourself. So let's take a look at his tweet. I don't know, this is the Cat in the Hat being racist. We'll get to that later. Apparently there was a big movement years ago that this Cat in the Hat thing isn't new either. The Dr. Seuss thing, rather. But anyways, here's the tweet that is so controversial. Congratulations, Mr. Andy No. Finally had time to read your important book. You're a brave man. That's the tweet. Now, what it snowballs into is Winston Marshall on break from Mumford and Sons after praising right-wing writer. Now, that headline's innocuous enough, objective enough, but then you get into the content and it's far-right agitator. Andy No prompted a backlash. Now, I'm talking about this journalistically, whether you have read the book or not, and maybe you think that is the case. Maybe you do think that. I don't know that who's writing this article. Be interesting to write every single one of the. See, is there even a byline here? Oh, here it is, Laura Snapes. So it would be interesting to ask Laura Snapes, did you read this book? Unmasked Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. Now, I can tell you, just off the headline, that I feel the headline's sensationalized. Unmasked Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy Democracy. And there's two reasons here. Antifa is referred to as a singular unit. And everything that I've seen, I don't even use the term Antifa as a singular signifier. I say Antifa-aligned groups because you have all these different groups. Some of them are called Antifa. In Berkeley, you have Berkeley Antifa. You have Antifa Sacramento, where it actually is Antifa Sacramento. That's their Twitter account, is Antifa Sac _. I've followed them. I've gone in Black Bloc and been alongside them. Those are Antifa groups. But to say Antifa's radical plan to destroy democracy makes it sound like it's a monolith, and it is not. It's loosely knit, horizontally organized groups. I want to show you, just give you a little bit more of a look at, I'm going to go over this with Weinstein this afternoon, ask him his take. But here we see Rolling Stone after praising conservative provocateur. Provocateur, I guess you could say, is a little less pointed, but maybe still it's a biased signifier. It's a label. And we'll see what else this article says. I'm just sort of testing this out. A book authored by a right-wing provocateur who condemned Antifa. But even provocateur, I would say, is not an objective. Now, Fox News refers to him as a writer simply. I think Billboard refers to him, to Andy now, how do they refer to him? I mean, it's interesting. I mean, a right-wing provocateur, sometimes you're playing telephone here, and these what's happening is these are called pickups. Each of these publications is picking up the article, and they're just paraphrasing the damn thing. And that's why you get these pylons. Now, this is EW, Entertainment Weekly, and I think they called him a right-wing pundit. So I would say that is a more objective descriptor than subjectively calling him a, who is the worst? Let's see, the worst one, I think the Hollywood Reporter was a right-wing author, but then you scroll down and it says controversial right-wing writer. Okay. A conservative journalist So now again, this is a banjo player who read a book and said that the book was good. And then he had to come out and apologize for causing harm. Instead of debating why aren't we debating the content? That's what I'm curious about. In having discussions about what was controversial, what is considered provocateurship. I think we're becoming stupider. Now, this is one of the stupidest headlines. Speaking of stupid, this is AV Club, and the headline is Mumford and Sons Winston Marshall acknowledges he really fucked it up this time. So this isn't just a non-objective headline. It's kind of who's written this? Tatiana Tenreiro is the name of the author. I would say Miss Tatiana is not being objective. Look, has she read the book? That's my question to her. Have you read the book? You're now calling him right-wing troll, Andy. Now, the banjos. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that we're not doing journalism anymore. None of this is journalistic. It's phony. It's dishonest. And what's happening in these pylons is you get the same thing happened with Gina Carano. You get the talking points coming out. Now, what's unique about this Mumford and Sons banjo player is he said he liked a book. Let's argue then what in the book is false. I just told you that it appears to me, now I haven't read it, but it appears to me that Antifa is referred to as a monolith, and it's not parsed, that these are individualized groups that all have their local scene regionally. So there's not one, the big joke everybody makes on their Twitter profile is CEO of Antifa, Secretary of State of Antifa. And all the leftists make, these really tired jokes about, who they are, and riffing on this right-wing misconception. So that's a fair point to criticize. Have a conversation about that. Are we just kicking people out of bands because they didn't get that? Maybe you know that, but they didn't when they read the book, and maybe your understanding of activism and the anti-fascist movement, which also is direct action, riot actions, deliberate, all these points can be talked about. You're not condemned or should be persecuted just for reading a book and having an opinion. So let's talk about it. Where is his assessment wrong? I would say this: we don't know because we're too lazy to even figure out what this person means other than finally had time to read your book, important book, You're a Brave Man. Well, do any of these authors that, from AV Club, do they even bother to contact him and say, hey, I saw your comment and I think you fucked it up. And this is why, because I read the book and X, Y, Z are all wrong in Mr. No's book. No, we're not even doing that. All we're doing is being jerks. It really comes down to that, because that's what gets engagement. We're not really engaging with the content. We're just labeling people and saying he acknowledges he really fucked it up this time. Did he really say that? Did he? Is that an accurate headline? I don't think it is. Let's see what he said. Over the past few days, I've come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorsed. I have offended not only a lot of people I don't know, but also those closest to me, including my bandmates, and for that I am truly sorry, he wrote. As a result of my actions, I am taking time away from the band to examine my blind spots. For now, please know that I realize how my endorsements have the potential to be viewed as approvals of hateful, divisive behavior. I apologize, as this was not at all my intention. So what is the hateful, divisive behavior? And look, it's entirely possible that can be proven. But show us how that is proven. Where is the hateful, divisive behavior? What is the passage in the book that you can point to that labels him as a troll, a provocateur, whatever? You're just throwing words out. It's the opposite of journalism. What's going on right now? These pile-ons, these publications that jump on a Twitter trend that is outrage-based, and it's the exact same thing. Check out, if you go to my Twitter, @JLeeQuinn, I mapped all the tweets that came in from tweet zero in the Gina Carano tweet storm back in February. I think it was February the 10th. And I contacted the author of tweet zero. And that young woman herself was under fire and had to apologize a month before because she made racially charged comments about the character Finn. If you guys are Star Wars fans, episodes 7, 8, 9, the J.J. Abrams series, you got Finn. He's the black actor from England who plays him. And they do this thing, the Star Wars fans, called shipping, where you imagine characters in a different relationship with someone else. So, what was it called? Reylo is when you imagine a relationship with Rey and Kylo Ren. So if you're Team Reylo, if you're shipping Reylo, that means you're all about that relationship. So she was making comments about people who ship Finlo, which is pairing Finn with Kylo Ren in, I guess, some fantastical imagined homosexual relationship. So this is the kind of thing that sort of just goes in the Twitter sphere online. Look, this is all new to me. I'm not judging it. I'm just telling you guys. I'm just telling it like it is, man. So what this woman who started the Gina Carano Twitter storm and had previously tweeted back in January that she hates Gina Carano, and she even made a comment about punching her in the chest, except she didn't say chest. So you have all these off-color remarks. She adds to that an off-color remark about a relationship between the characters of Finn and Kylo Ren. Now, I don't need to go into it. Let's just say it referenced a painful part of this country's history. So she has to respond to those who are offended by her. And then how do you redirect your missteps? Then you go after somebody else. I mean, it's insane. The ecosystem that has been created. If you look at my piece on my Twitter, you just scroll down, you can find the Gina Carano piece. The ecosystem is a microcosm to all these other subcultures that we see. Star Wars, activism, Stop the Steal, QAnon, all of this stuff where misinformation becomes weaponized and it becomes passed on in snowballs and then is picked up by a tabloid. I call this the Twitter to tabloid pipeline. It's bad. It's bad because it's out of control. And the people who are jumping on for marginal profit are the Daily Beast, publications like Rolling Stone, other publications are getting on board. I mean, we just saw even the, Hollywood Reporter or AV Club, I think it was called, using the most unscrupulous language to get the most clicks. That's what it comes down to. If you can be more sensational at somebody's expense, you're going to get more engagement. It's a flawed system of persecution. And that's what I think we need to speak out. So when people say, oh, well, why do you want to talk about Dr. Seuss to conservatives? And I'm not a conservative. I'm a liberal. It's important because where does this stop? It's when you really slow it down and look at it step by step, it is intense. It makes no sense. I'll just show you a little of the screen from my piece on the Gina Carano stuff. So it gets into heavy identity politics, but this was the original Gina Carano post, which wasn't her words. It was basically, look, I understand that it's an intense image and unnecessary, inappropriate. Those are all words that people have put out there, but to describe it. But as I mentioned in the article, Ben Shapiro, Barry Weiss, from opposite sides of the political spectrum, get into, well, what's the intent of the post? The intent of the post is to say that hate and persecution unchecked are, it asks the question, is it different to hate someone from their identity, their immutable characteristics, and their political beliefs? Now, you can disagree with it, and you could say, of course, it's nothing like that. And that's what this one woman does here. She says that the oppression of my people have faced because of our religion and ethnicity is not the same as political disagreements. A lot more of the comments against Carano are a lot less, people introduce Republicans and the Holocaust, saying that she compared. None of those are mentioned in the original post. But what's interesting about this woman who makes a rational, the closest that we get to a rational post, it gets 10,000 likes, is that she then goes on to, she's a Game of Thrones fan. So Sarah changes her profile from Daenerys to Sansa. And then she says, this is later, after Gina Carano's gotten fired, are we all going to forget that? And she's disguised Letitia Wright's name, so you can't find it in a Twitter search. And this technique works. What you do is, and I saw other people talking about Gina Carano, and you put an asterisk in the first and last name somewhere. And what that does is then it escapes detection. Nobody who is trying to, be on the side of Gina Carano can Google the name and find your comments and then come in and then issue a rebuttal, because you've disguised the name. So that means anybody who's pro this actress. Now, this actress is a Black actress from the UK who starred in Black Panther. She plays Shuri, right? The Black Panther's sister, I believe. So she had once posted a video that discussed vaccines. I don't know where the other accusation comes in, but the idea that if you post anything that's remotely topical, that you're going to be tried by the Twitter activist cadre. So now this is the woman who did the first tweet. She goes by CEO of Bottom Han Solo. That's a reference to an act of sexual dominance with the character of Han Solo. And you can see she gets a little intense herself. So when you ask, where did the actual animus come from? The CEO of, let's see if I can find it. The CEO of Disney said just yesterday that the values, this was in a meeting to shareholders. I almost said shareholders. This is a comment to shareholders of Disney. Someone asked about if it was essentially blacklisting actors who are from the right. And he said, the CEO, Bob Chapek, said, it doesn't characterize itself as left-leaning or right-leaning, but stands for, quote, values that are universal, respect, decency, integrity, and inclusion. And we seek to have the content that we make reflective of the rich diversity of the world we live in. Yes, I agree with that. Sure. It's Hallmark Cardi, but yeah, I can get behind that. But the question is that what these fans are doing? It starts by saying she's right-wing or a Trump supporter. Next thing you know, you have someone here saying you have a white supremacist on your hands. And because you allow it, you're just as bad. Disney fired Gina Carano. How the fuck does she still have a job? Fired Gina. These pile-ons, the next thing you know, by the next day, it's F that Nazi bitch. So this is an ugly side. When you really do the research, as I did in this piece, you see it goes back to September 8th. This is actually round 2. They actually got to her in August because she hadn't said anything in support of Black Lives Matter. So this person named Giovanna comes in September and says she's selfish. She watches and believes the Trump state government run news on Fox, and she doesn't deserve a job in Hollywood or anywhere in the United States. Get her a ticket to Russia if she loves fascism so much. That's back in September. Now, the problem with this comment is, well, there's a couple of problems, but this person is not a Star Wars fan. And this person admits later to never having seen The Mandalorian. And this person, I can't click on it, their profile is an activist profile that just sort of came in and used hashtag fire Gina Carano on September the 8th for the first time. Now, since that time, there were 2 other times that they got it trending. This person, look at this. The Fire Gina Corona bot automatically retweets anything that has to do with Fire Gina Corona. I just missed. It's called the Fire Gina Corona bot. Her name is, of course, Gina Carano. That's what confused me just now. Now this bot is retweeting Janet. Janet was the one who is a college student who's procrastinating for finals, who introduces Sarah. Also is a performing arts college student. So Janet brings out the first talking point that it's comparing conservatives to, and that's earlier in this post. Then somebody named Shitty Star Wars Posts chimes in saying it's about her using boop bop beep as the what do you call them, the pronouns. And then she says, yes, Peter and I spoke. He helped me to understand why people were putting them in their bios. I didn't know that before. So she kind of does a little bit of a, okay, I understand. I won't be doing it. But this person tries to paint it as Pedro Pascal, who explained pronouns and why people have them in their names, and Gina decided to mock that. Well, no, she made a joke, and then she was corrected and spoke to him, and she changed it. Not the other way around, but it's becoming a Twitter truth that people who I know thought, oh, he told her why people have them, and then she mocked them. No, that's not the case. It's reversed. Those 2 pictures should be reversed in time order. So there's a lot of misinformation that kind of went viral, and here they're going after tweets that she liked. So tell me exactly why Gina Carano still has a job at Disney. Grogu should have choked you. Take your Blue Lives Matter shit somewhere else. That's Janet, and Janet was the one who introduced the Republican Holocaust talking point. And that tweet this is a tweet, pray for our Capitol Police. They have families like everyone else. Be smart. This is a tweet that Gina Carano liked. So they're looking at the tweets that she's just liked. This is how into it they get. And if you go back to the original, her story, look how many Instagram stories are on there. There's 29. So whoever had to get to the offending comment had to follow her on Instagram. It was then displayed on TikTok. You see, she's not the original poster. Here's the original poster here. Warrior Priest Jim Podcast posted it. And again, it's talking about the rise of, of hate and people hating their neighbors and so forth. But 29. So if you got to find that, you have to go through each one of these pictures to get to it there, second to the last, where it was posted. So and there's also a Dead Kennedys track, which is Fuck Off Nazi Punks, which is embedded. You can see it right there. So I would say that's an anti-Nazi message. Fuck off Nazi punks. Look, Disney has the right to fire anybody, but the point that conservatives are making, which I tend to agree with, is that if the left is going to make Holocaust and Nazi allusions as well, why should one person be fired and the other not? This guy also got 10,000 likes. One day we get a beautiful story about Pedro Pascal and his goodness and support for inclusivity, and the next we're reminded that Gina Carano has a lizard brain and should not be trusted around human beings. 10,000 likes. He is a teacher of creative writing. So this kind of extremism is the exact same kind of extremism. And this is this celebration. Here's the touchdown dance. I ask, is the unseen vulnerability here when news organizations pick up this material and just repeat it, they parrot it, and they rage parrot, one headline to the next. Is the unseen vulnerability that whether we are talking about elections, political activism, or fandom, that bad faith chaos actors can take the day. And then this is the celebration, saying she got fired. It's a Christmas miracle. And then the other two chime in, LMAO. Oh, we did it, Joe. That's a reference to Kamala Harris saying to Joe Biden, we did it. The other one, I blurred her face, gets on and takes credit. We did it. This is, if you really look at this article, The ending is chilling. I say for the triumphant, it may only be just beginning. And then the next tweet is now do Rosario Dawson. Fire Gina Carano is good. This is back in November, but Rosario needs to be fired too. And that's because she had a friend who was a live-in, who was trans, who they got in some sort of argument. And I think there's a lawsuit involved with that. So, you know, for these fans, it's so much about the adrenaline, or the, what do you call it? Dopamine. It's the dopamine ride, because there's been studies that this behavior is addictive. The sort of ability to anonymously come in and just trash a public figure and project all this other stuff. So when you go to Disney's CEO's original statement about inclusivity and all this harmony and stuff, I don't see it coming from those fans. I really don't. And I've been saying to the author of Tweet Zero, well, show me where's the inclusivity on your all's part, because I saw a YouTube video of Gina Carano in December preaching inclusivity and not wanting to be divisive in any way. But every tweet that I saw was filled with vitriol and malice. So look, you can argue with me. People, you can show me something else. This is a discussion. Am I defending Gina Carano? I'm pointing out a failure. If she wants to use it for her defense, I really, I'm trying to be as objective as possible here. I'm pointing out a failure in our journalistic process. And with all of these publications jumping on these Twitter waves, and I am hoping we can recorrect and not allow these bad faith actors to go after people. So Han shot first. Yes, I agree. Han definitely shot first. So anyways, I don't get it, but I'm willing to talk about it. We got Brett Weinstein coming up in an hour. That's going to be exciting. I'm going to take a little break, and then we're going to have Brett. I'm going to get some lunch. I haven't got to any of these comments, but I'll take just a peek. You guys are having a conversation. Cool. I will show you one more thing. I'll show you when I got Twitter attacked. It's interesting. Let me see if I can figure this out. So, what happens if I go to do I know how to do this? Yes, I do. This is, yeah, I gotta. All right. Okay. All right. We're doing it. I think. All right, cool. Check it out. This, gosh, it's like a wall of mirrors. All right. This is me. This is a New York Times article that came out called The Truth About Today's Anarchists. Now, what's interesting is Farah Stockman, the Pulitzer Prize winning author who wrote this piece, she had won for in previous years, but she did not choose the headline. I thought that was interesting. And when I wrote a piece that was just published last week for a UK publication, my headline was taken out and something else was put in its place, which is interesting because, and I'll show you my piece, you guys. Check this out. This is called We Are Turning a Blind Eye to Political Violence. This is my piece that just came out, and I chronicle everything that I witnessed, and it's got a lot of pictures, actually. It was cool how they did it, and I went with this publication because they don't interrupt it with ads. The ads are to the side there, but like this is a publication I took of a guy at the Capitol. As you can see, this is Washington, Kill Cops, graffiti. They're chasing the Black Bloc, chasing an evangelical. That's the ICE Center in Portland. That is the extremist who espoused National Socialist views, who I interviewed the night after the Capitol riot. This is Sacramento. What I liked about this publication is you don't get a ad for like earwax removal in the middle of my article. And that's what I wanted. I wanted this to be around, as a testament. I mean, look, I don't know why they're advertising these to me. I'll close that. But I swear I haven't been Google searching for anything that would have indicated that. Okay, this is Sacramento. This is actually quite serious. This is a guy walking away from a club. They damn near killed him, is what and they beat this couple. And you could see that she's on her chin. She's taking it on the chin, literally. And then her boyfriend is down for the count on the curb. And I saw this beating. I saw that club wailing on him. Now there's the flip side on the right, a guy scaling the scaffolding in front of the Capitol. And then this was inauguration night in Portland at the ICE facility. So this is the article. It's written for Spiked UK. They are a libertarian publication. My understanding is that they started off a lot more left. It seems to be they're a little more conservative now, but they are ostensibly a mixed bag of libertarianism. And this is the piece, "We are turning a blind eye to political violence." Now, I will just say one thing for the record. One word crept in that I did not write. Let me see if they changed it. I asked if they would. See, this I did not write. This is interesting. Perhaps this supposed right-wing extremism is far more pedestrian than we imagine. I didn't put the word supposed. It's right-wing extremism. So it's really interesting working with editors because, and I asked for this to be addressed, but obviously they haven't. Look, I'm just telling you guys about the process. It's interesting when little things creep in that you did not write or that imply something different. Because just adding supposed into that sentence changes what I meant. And I've looked this over a bunch of times, and that's the only word that, in my opinion, is out of place. This wasn't what I was going to talk about first. I was going back to this, the truth about today's anarchists. The first attack on me was by a publication called It's Going Down. They're a drag. They're anarchists, basically, revolutionary anarchists. I know who they are. I've written to them and said, "Hey, do you want to talk about this? You wrote this hit thread on me in which they call me my work filled with baseless conspiracy theories. I am which is very much not me. But this guy, Nick Martin, contacts the New York Times. He is a self-professed right-wing hunter of sorts. He's got tens of thousands of followers. He's got a blue check. There he is. Let's see. Now I've written to him and said, "Hey, will you come and discuss what you wrote about me?" So I feel like this is fair game all these months later to say, "Hey, Nick, come talk about this." Because you got a lot more going. Let's see, what did he say? I write the informant, original reporting and intelligence on hate and extremism. Well, this expert in intelligence and hate in extremism, self-proclaimed, wrote, "Wow, this big thread by It's Going Down is really damning. It looks at the problematic sourcing in a New York Times opinion piece." Now, I'm the problematic sourcing. So it's like, hey, I'm right here. You can talk to me. And then TLDR, too long didn't read, is what that means. So I'm not even going to read this, but I'll say this. It looks like the author got snookered by a right-wing conspiracy theorist. So now you just see firsthand how somebody writes someone. Next thing you know, I'm a conspiracy theorist. When I have gone through painstaking documentation for months to, and they were upset that I said, "Hey, I don't know about this looting. I don't know about this burning stuff down. I don't know about this coordination." Well, guess what? You're a conspiracy theorist. Guess what? So we got to get away from this. We got to get away from this incessant labeling. And it's the same thing that we're seeing right now with the Andy No thing, in the sense that, look, I haven't read the book. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot that I disagree with Andy No. You also have to understand who Andy No is. Andy No has parents that are from Vietnam, from communist Vietnam. So is it going to be a surprise that somebody whose parents escaped communist Vietnam is going to be anti-communist and against Antifa groups that espouse communism? No, that shouldn't be surprised. We should be able to have a conversation about that. I don't agree with Andy Ngo on things. I haven't read the book yet, but the same methodology is being used. He's a right-wing troll. He's a provocateur instead of dealing with the content. Now, when I challenged each of those people, including Nick Martin, to say, show me where I have made a mistake in my work. Just show me where, because I noticed it says too long, didn't read. Well, if you're gonna, call me a conspiracy theorist, show me where there is a fault in my work. That's what we need to be talking about. If you have an issue with Andy Ngo's book, show the point in which misinformation or some sort of assumed or perceived bigotry or apologia or whatever it is, make that case based on the material. Take the time. If you're Noah Schuckman, the editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast, get your staff to make cases based on material, not to write pieces in which you characterize people and label them. Especially in the Pacific Northwest, Mr. Andy Ngo, we can say this objectively, is a target of hate. They spray paint, kill Andy Ngo on everything. I've seen it on buildings. Folks showed up at his relative's house on Halloween to harass. This is called hate. And it is possible that our side engages in it. Now, there's another argument that I'm going to make against myself. Since I have no one who will debate me, I'll make the argument against myself. If you guys tuned in to my talk with Burn It Down with Kim Brown, it was an interesting talk. It was hard to, unlodge each other's worldviews, certainly. But one thing that we did do is we went through police death statistics. Those of you who are familiar with it was a podcast about stepping off from the brink. That's, the idea of having a dispassionate, I want to take that word, dispassionate, that was used by Sam Harris, a dispassionate analysis of figures and numbers. I want to do that. And I think that's important to do that. We went through the police death numbers, and one study that came out recently was that if you're from the left, people believe that people of color are being killed annually by the thousands. And it's not true. That's not true. It's, the numbers are, range from, 200 to 300, with white people being in the majority, they are killed the most by police in police involved shootings or violence, So we went through those figures, and I'm glad we did. We didn't agree on anything. I'm not sure how much progress we made, but we had the conversation. Equally, the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is a bigger story, I was at one of their press conferences, and I brought up the issue of left-wing violence. I was told that was offensive to bring it up. My question saying, what is the comment about unilateral attacks on conservatives on October the 17th in San Francisco, December the 6th, when that couple was beat that I just showed you, in Sacramento, the unilateral attacks on November the 14th in Washington, D.C. This is what I asked the Southern Poverty Law Center. I was told that question was offensive. So, and the question was censored. I had listed the dates in the online press conference, and the president of Southern Poverty Law Center said, well, this is a question about hate on the left, and didn't read the question. And then Michael Hayden, who's the senior reporter, came in and said that it was offensive for me to ask the question. I would maintain, and I would ask Michael Hayden to come on this show and have this discussion with me. I would maintain that it's not offensive to ask a question and ask the Southern Poverty Law Center to watch hate. They're called Hate Watch. Watch it on the right and on the left. Now I'll make Michael Hayden's argument for him. There are 5,000 or so hate crimes annually in the United States. The majority of those are against Black, African American people. Of those 5,000, so you have a majority, I think it's a little more than half, so that we get 2,500 are against Black people. Now, 40% of those are non-physical. They're not assault. They're intimidation. So 60% of them, roughly 1,500, are physical attacks against Black people, hate crimes. So that's significant, and we should be talking about that. We want less hate crimes. Everybody should, whether you're from the right or the left. This is not a political issue. And I don't know that changing Dr. Seuss or getting rid of, children's books is going to reduce hate crimes. We have to ask, well, who are these people who are committing hate crimes? And I don't think we're going to be able to make a connection to, Dr. Seuss. I think that what we need to ask, though, is what I'll ask. If Michael Hayden and those people who think that I'm offensive for asking the question, I will ask: am I overplaying the importance of one attack here, one killing up in Portland of a conservative, and these attacks that I saw here, here, and here? Well, here's the difference. This is political violence. The hate crimes that we have recorded, of those 1,500, how many are political and tied to, and that's the biggest question, is how extreme is our rhetoric, not just our rhetoric and not just the conversations that we have online, how extreme are people, what extremes are people being driven to from the mainstream? That's what we want to, curtail. And I think there's a mutual interest to look at this holistically. That's the point of my spiked piece that I wrote and they were willing to publish, is that we need to look at extremism holistically. Because if the media comes off as unilateral and one-sided, it's only going to perpetuate a sense of unfairness and a sense of persecution that another side feels. And that's going to bring up more animus, more vitriol. So I just propose that, putting that out there. And y'all, demonization is not helpful. Sorry guys, I'm a little tired. I'm not getting to all the comments right now, but I just wanted to do this little intro. I'm going to be back in less than an hour with Brett Weinstein, so I'm going to get something to eat, have some rest. Please come for, we'll be on at 1 o'clock Pacific, so any questions that you guys have, this is an interesting question. I will ask this. Have you ever contacted a lawyer for defamation by these hit pieces? Well, I haven't been hit. I would say these are just tweets of people saying something about you. And I don't know that you can make a case. First of all, these anarchists, they don't have their home addresses or their business addresses rather, readily available. I do know who these people are. I think what you have to prove is that the defamation actually somehow, I think Andy No could. I think that's a question for Andy No, because I haven't been attacked nearly on the level that he has. So does he have a defamation case against these publications? I think Rolling Stone was the one who started the Andy No is a troll, and I think they're the ones that put out that talking point. I'm going to Google it because this is an interesting question. Okay, I'm just getting used to this. Yeah. So when you talk about a defamation case, let's take a look at this. That's infinity. This is Rolling Stone here. How a right-wing troll managed to manipulate the mainstream media This is by somebody named E.J. Dixon. I do not know him. I do not know this article backwards and forwards. I am not making a defense. When a milkshake to the face brought the spotlight on Andy Ngo, politicians and talking heads on both sides were happy to take on his cause, demonizing Antifa. So the case that's being made here, which I think is, and this was September the 3rd, 2019, is that Andy Ngo demonizes Antifa. And I would like to, you know what? I need to spend some time with this article. Be interesting to challenge the author to come on and discuss it. I do not know. What I do know is that that article is heavily influential as to once you have that, once Rolling Stone comes in and says, this is how we see it, then how are you going to refute that? That's going to be on you for, I would imagine, until you file a lawsuit. So that question, luckily I've just had these little, have you ever contacted a lawyer for defamation? I've talked to lawyers. I'm dealing with lawyers right now because, my video was all stolen from the Capitol. So that's another story, another issue. But as far as defamation itself, to your name and to your credibility, I would say that so far it's been light to me. I don't know if that's because I've tried to engage consistently to diffuse it. I've said, hey, come and talk to me. So that all of these people who have called me one thing or another, or at the beginning were trying to suggest that I was right wing and all this other stuff, which in and of itself, what if I was right wing? I should be able to still do the same research that I'm doing, but I'm not right wing. Is that the only thing that's saving me? All of that, all of these people who came after me, I engaged them. I found out who they were. I found out their full names. And I said, hey, you, come talk to me on my podcast about what you said about me. And, I got refusals across the boards. I even got a rumor going on around that I was going to dox people. That was the rumor in the anarcho scene back in the fall. It was a false rumor. I'm not a doxer. I do not believe in doxing. I think it's petty. I think it's stupid. I think it's cowardly. All doxers are cowards. That is my opinion. So that is why you will never see me dox anyone. And that's why you see me being relatively, I would say, when it comes to naming people, I don't take glee in it. I'm trying to make a case and parse information. I'm not trying to engage and win clout by taking on these people one by one. So when I mention Nick Martin, it's because I want to have a conversation with Nick Martin. And I want us to get through his methodology. That was my request to Nick Martin. Can we talk about your methodology? About how you determine that somebody's a white supremacist or a right-wing whatever. I'm curious because we better make sure that you are right. If all these other publications are jumping on, you better be 100% about what you're coming out and accusing people. So I'm asking for integrity in doxing, if there is such a thing, because again, Nick Martin and Rolling Stone just did a whole spread on. There's one woman, Molly, the socialist dog mom or something, and then anti-Fash Gordon. These are all sort of regulars who go out and they're just like, yeah, man, we're doxing. And I don't know what their hit rate is, but like what percent are they right and what percent are they wrong? That's an interesting question is what I'm saying. I'm sure they have been right at times, but wouldn't it be more challenging for them to actually engage the people that they are doxing? Isn't it harder to call up the person you want to do your sensational spread on, whether you're the Daily Beast or you're anti-fash whoever? Isn't it harder to call that person up and say, hey, I noticed you made this and this this view. I perceive that as this and this. What do you say? And you have that conversation. Well, no, we don't want to platform those views. So what we're going to do is we're just going to label that person. Well, I think that's cowardly, because I think that's just hiding in a tribal bubble and deciding that you're not going to engage with certain sectors of the population because you deem them unworthy of your time. You're just going to publish. And it would be one thing if this was just happening on Twitter, but it's not. It's the publications from Newsweek to Rolling Stone to the Daily Beast are regular offenders when it comes to getting on these trending waves and not fact checking. Roxanne of the Raw story, when they stole my video from the Capitol, the excuse that I was given was, we publish 80 to 100 stories a day, 20 hours a day. And that haunts me, because my case was my video got stolen, and they didn't so much as apologize as they took it down and gave an excuse. But if that excuse is true and publications are hedging that much, then we're in trouble. Because how much of that work is being put out there just so people like it and they agree with it and they don't even read the damn article. And they even say, you know what? People aren't even reading our damn articles. They're just retweeting them. Now, it's so funny. I retweeted my article that I wrote, and Twitter said, are you sure you want to retweet this? You didn't read it. And I was like, yeah, I fucking wrote it. But I thought that was funny, because Twitter knows what the Daily Beast knows, what Rolling Stone knows, which is that people aren't even reading their articles. People are seeing a headline that agrees with something that they say, this is what I stand for. Fuck all if it's true or not. I'm retweeting it. It's getting put out there. The next person retweets it. And you never go back to say, well, did Gina Carano write that post? No, someone else did. Did it mention the Holocaust? No. Did it mention Republicans? No. So all this other stuff is just interpretive, and we're getting it from Twitter and we're riding that wave. We're going to talk about this a lot more. I got to get something to eat. I got to be on here in another 15 minutes and chat with Brett. Get ready. We'll be on in a half hour. Please come back. Brett Weinstein will be coming up. We're going to talk about all these topics. Please come with your questions. And this is a good point. They don't want to engage in these arguments. That is clear. How many times has Ibram X declined offers from John McWhorter or Coleman Hughes? That is very true. They do not. People do not. And that's why, as much as Kim Brown and I, burnt down with Kim Brown, disagree, I appreciate her coming on and having the conversation in good faith. She expressed something that obviously I don't agree with burning anything down. But she came, she showed up, we had a friendly conversation, we disagreed. Some people, look, I understand. I slept for 2 hours after that conversation. It was exhausting. It was completely exhausting to me. But she's welcome back on the show anytime. And I have respect for people who come and show up. And I do not for those who will not take up those offers to debate those who want to engage in discussion of a different point of view. So adios. I will see you guys. All the doxing and destruction is justified by ideology. They sleep fine at night, right or wrong. Well, I will say that the woman who started the Gina Tweet Zero with Gina Carano, she has no remorse. I tried to say yesterday, well, hey, maybe do you want to think about it this way? Or there's no remorse. You're right. If you're ingrained in ideology, you sleep well at night. All right, folks. I will be back with Brett Weinstein in a half hour. See you soon.